Cliff Richard's journey from a young boy in India to a global music icon has captivated fans for decades. Known for his smooth voice, good looks, and undeniable stage presence, Cliff was a beloved figure in British music. He rose to fame with a series of rock and roll hits, eventually earning the title of Britain's Elvis. Yet, behind the fame and success, there's a more personal story. One filled with resilience, tragedy, and an unshakable dedication to his career. Now at 84, Cliff reflects on a lifetime in the limelight, offering fans a deeper look into the heartache, sacrifices, and choices that shaped his life. In his later years, he has opened up about his thoughts on death, the future, and the quiet truth of his journey. From India to Britain, the early years of Harry Webb. Cliff Richard was not always Cliff Richard. Born as Harry Roger Webb in Lucknow, India, on October 14, 1940, his early life was far from the spotlight. His father, Roger Webb, worked as a manager for a catering contractor, and his mother, Dorothy, raised the children while providing support to the family. Harry was not an only child. He had 3 sisters. However, after the violence of Direct Action Day in 1946, the family made the difficult decision to leave India. They moved to Britain in 1948, where their lives were drastically different. They settled in a modest home in Essex, and Harry, soon to be known as Cliff, adapted to a new country and culture. Though far from the comforts of their former life in India, the Webb family found stability in their new home, and young Harry started his journey toward a musical future, the birth of Cliff. Richard, a name, a star, is born. In 1957, Harry Webb's life would take a dramatic turn. As the lead singer of a group called the Drifters, Harry was urged by a businessman, Harry Grader X, to adopt a more stage-worthy name. The name Cliff Richard was chosen. Cliff evoking the image of a rock, and Richard as a tribute to his musical idol, Little Richard. This change would prove to be a pivotal moment in Cliff's career. With a new identity and a fresh outlook, he and his group went on to perform at the Regal Ballroom in Ripley, marking the beginning of a journey that would change his life forever. Soon after, their debut recording session led to the release of Move It, which became an instant success and is now considered one of the first authentic British rock and roll songs. The rise of Cliff Richard and the Shadows. As his fame began to soar, Cliff Richard quickly became one of Britain's brightest stars. Alongside his backing band, The Shadows, Cliff became the face of British rock and roll. With his striking looks and a voice that resonated with millions, Cliff was often compared to Elvis Presley. Throughout the late 1950s and early 1960s, songs like Living Doll and High Class Baby solidified his place in pop culture. His career hit a new high with the release of Living Doll, which became his first #1 hit. The Shadows, originally his backing band, became stars in their own right, contributing to the songwriting and playing on many of Cliff's hits. Together, they transformed British rock and roll, taking it to places it had never been before. A life beyond music, Cliff's film career. Cliff Richard was not just a singer, he was also a film star. In the early 1960s, as his music career flourished, he made a name for himself in British cinema with roles in movies like Espresso Bongo, The Young Ones, and Summer Holiday. These films captured the spirit of the era and helped cement Cliff's status as a household name. Along with his musical success, Cliff's charm and versatility on the screen made him one of the most sought-after figures in British entertainment. As the years went on, however, his focus shifted more toward his Christian faith, which began to influence his music and his career choices. He recorded contemporary Christian music, but his popularity never waned. The pain of losing his father and mother. Despite his massive success, Cliff Richard's life has been marked by significant loss. At just 20 years old, Cliff lost his father, Roger Webb, to thrombosis. His father had been his biggest supporter, guiding him through the early years of his career. The pain of losing him so young was something that Cliff would carry with him throughout his life. In an emotional interview, Cliff shared the difficulty of not having had the chance to share his achievements with his father. His father never saw him become the global star he was destined to be, and that loss still lingers in his heart. Later, in 2007, Cliff's mother Dorothy passed away after a long battle with Alzheimer's. Seeing his mother slip away was another devastating blow, closing a chapter of his life that he had cherished deeply. Tragedy strikes, losing his sister, Donna. The passing of his sister Donna in 2016 added another layer of grief to Cliff Richard's life. Donna had been an integral part of his early career, helping with tasks like transcribing lyrics. She had supported him from the very beginning, even before his rise to fame. Her passing was a personal loss that hit Cliff hard, especially as it came during a particularly difficult period in his life. At the same time, he was embroiled in a highly publicized and painful legal battle involving false accusations of abuse. The scandal, which lasted for 2 years, affected not only his reputation, but also his mental and emotional well-being. Although the allegations were eventually dropped and Cliff was cleared, the ordeal left lasting scars, public scandal, and personal heartbreak. The false allegations that Cliff Richard faced were one of the darkest chapters of his life. For 2 years, he lived under the shadow of accusations that were both false and deeply humiliating. The BBC even broadcast a police raid on his home, an act that was not only intrusive but damaging to his reputation. Cliff later spoke out about the experience, expressing his anger and frustration with how the media and police handled the situation. Despite being cleared of all charges, the emotional toll of the scandal was immense. In addition to this public humiliation, he was also mourning the loss of his sister and facing a period of great personal grief. Yet, despite everything, Cliff continued to push forward, focusing on his music and the legacy he was determined to leave. Love and heartbreak, Cliff's relationships through the years. Throughout his life, Cliff Richard's relationships were often the subject of public curiosity. At just 21, Cliff made one of the most difficult decisions of his life, writing a letter to his first serious girlfriend, Australian dancer Delia Wicks, to explain that he could not marry her. His career, he explained, had to come first. This decision would shape the rest of his life as he put his passion for music ahead of any lasting romantic relationship. Over the years, Cliff had several short-lived romances, including with actress Una Stubbs and dancer Jackie Irving. His most public relationship was with tennis star Sue Barker, with whom he was involved in the 1980s. Although they shared a deep connection, Cliff eventually admitted that he did not love her in the way that would have made marriage possible. His relationships were always tinged with the reality of his fame, and love for him was often elusive. Looking ahead, Cliff Richard's peaceful acceptance. As Cliff Richard approaches his 85th year, he reflects on his extraordinary life with a sense of peace. He has faced immense personal losses, public scandals, and the pressures of fame. Yet through it all, he has remained steadfast in his dedication to his faith, his music, and his fans. While his life was filled with hardship and heartache, it was also a life of unparalleled achievement and deep personal fulfillment. Cliff may not have married, but he has always had love in his life, in the form of his family, friends, fans, and his unwavering faith. His story is one of resilience, dedication, and the quiet strength to endure. And as he enters the later stages of his life, he is content knowing that he lived it true to himself.